is Swing Low, Sweet Chariot in G major from the Faber Level 3 books. I'll play it first and then I'll offer you some ideas for practice. So, starting here. Tons of inverted chords. So one of the things that I would check out is identifying your chords and what inversion they're in for the right hand and the left hand. So for example, at the beginning we're starting here. If we restack this chord in root position, we can see that this is a G major chord, and we have it in second inversion because the fifth of the chord is on the bottom. So we're moving between second inversion and first inversion, back to second inversion. Then a root position C chord, right? So identifying what chord you're working with and what inversion is in can be really helpful to both know the harmony and to reinforce the correct fingering. If you take a look here on that second inversion chord, I use the 1, 3, 5. I use 1, 2, 5 here because the spacing is closer, and I also use 1, 3, 5 on my root position chords. Similarly, in the left hand, we've got some inversions. One of them happens in measure 4, and it's with the D major chord. Right? So we actually, you can practice this first going from root position up through the inversions. So root position, 5, 3, 1. First inversion, 5, 3, 1. Second inversion, 5, 2, 1. Back to root position. Right? So practicing switching those with the correct fingering. And also with this wrist lift. So we want to feel when you're switching chords, almost like you're rolling a ball forward on the keys, or like your wrist is lifting like a balloon on a string. So we want the wrist to lead that motion. So you end up with these little rainbows moving from one chord to the next. Then you can practice it just the way that it's written. So measure 4 starts down here in the second inversion. So we have second inversion, root position, first inversion, and then our next chord is a root position G. Right? So practicing those chords with those different inversions. We also have some pedaling considerations. So the pedal is really important because we get the ring and the sustain through the bar while our hand is having to move around. We can't really keep a legato. So if I play the first line with no pedal, this is what it sounds like. To switch between all these chords, obviously I'm losing the connection in the sound. So the pedal is being changed when the chord changes. So we have our G chord, C chord, G chord. Then we get a little refresh here, G, changes Changing the pedal a little bit after you play the chord keeps the sound linked. If you change it early, you'll get a gap. So I'll play Comin' For to Carry Me Home and change my pedal at the wrong time. So you can hear I changed it too early at home and ended up with a silence. So I want to do play. And change a little after. Okay. Here's one part of the piece that doesn't use the pedal, and it happens at measure 8. So, and it's to give us a little bit of a different texture, a drier texture. We've got these really stompy fifths. So you've got the G, and then down to your C and D. Right. So, giving those a lot of emphasis, lifting the wrist and dropping heavy into the key to give us that accent. That'll help with those stompy chords. Then we get our pedal back. Etc. Okay. The end says freely. So this is when we have really kind of some freedom with how fast it goes, or it could stretch out. So I'll kind of count through the melody. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And that nice sforzando at the end. So you know, you could sort of stretch those or hurry up a little through it, however you want to interpret it. So right, so you've got a little flexibility there. You also have swinging eighth notes. So everywhere we have the eighths, you hear that long short pattern instead of a long short pattern. And then the last thing would be paying attention to the legato and staccato, which happens a lot in the I looked over Jordan line. Right? So having those little bounces on the staccato notes. You can practice those bounces and then linking those legato fingers too.